These videos from all over the internet is going to flip your perspective. Let's just start.
The law of attraction is so powerful that when you hold a thought for as little as 17 seconds, another thought like it will join it. And as those two thoughts come together, there is a combustion that occurs that makes your thoughts even more powerful. And with that being said, there are CIA documents that were released in 2003 and were written on the 9th of June 1983, and the subject was analysis and assessment of gateway process. So gateway process is all information on gaining higher states of consciousness, and we are just consciousness. That is what everybody is. So in my videos I always explain how it's the feeling that will produce everything in your life, because with the feeling you can make yourself better. If you are ill, you can change your whole reality. If you do not like the way that it is, you can also change your chemicals inside your body, so illnesses can be fixed by the way that you feel. And in the CIA document there's so many different explanations on the different states of consciousness that you can enter during meditation, transcendental meditation and other areas. But this one I'm going to read to you biofeedback, because it's about everything that I already explained about why the feeling is the most important thing. Yes, your thoughts are creating your whole reality, but with your thoughts you get a feeling, and with that feeling you attract everything to you in your life, because you get more of what you are being, and what you are being is what you are feeling internally. So they call this biofeedback, but there's so many different people, scientists, that call it different things. Neville Goddard says it's the wish fulfilled, so he just calls it wish fulfilled. But this is called biofeedback, and there's a whole section of how it works with the brain and all of that, but I've just written out like the most basic bit for you to kind of be able to understand it in the most simplest terms. So biofeedback teaches the left hemisphere first to visualize. So what do you do when you visualize? You're visualizing what it is that you would like. Okay, so say you've got an illness and you want to be better, you visualize what it would be like for you to be healed. With that visualization you get a feeling. Just like with every thought, you get a feeling. When you visualize, that is like your thought processes made in a picture for you to see. So that is also going to produce a feeling, and that feeling attracts everything into your life. So teaches the left hemisphere first to visualize the desired result. So you visualize the desired outcome of what you want to experience. If you are ill, you visualize being better. If you are poor, you visualize having money. If you are homeless, you visualize having a house. Whatever it is, you visualize the end result of what you want to experience. And then to recognize the feelings associated with the experience of successful right hemisphere access to the specific lower cerebral cortex, pain, pleasure or other areas in the manner needed to produce the desired result. So there's a whole section with all the scientific terms and how it works and whatever, but basically it is literally what I speak about, how you visualize. Whatever you visualize comes true in your life, because your only reality is your imagination. Okay, I'll read it one more time. So biofeedback teaches the left hemisphere first to visualize the desired result, and then to recognize the feelings associated with the experience of successful right hemisphere access to the specific lower cerebral cortex, pain, pleasure or other areas in the manner needed to produce the desired result. So plain and simple, your feelings are everything, because that is how you're moving about in your reality, with how you feel. If you go to the doctors and you get told you have this illness, this disease, and you hold on to that and you believe that, so that's your truth, you're walking around and you're manifesting that illness to get worse and worse, because the feeling that you would have received from believing what this doctor had told you is now your reality, and now your thoughts are linked with, oh, I've got this is why I feel like this, because I have this thing going on. Rather, what this is saying, biofeedback, is, doesn't matter if you have an illness or whatever's going on, if you can visualize the end result of what it is you would like to experience, and you go about your day with the feeling that came with that visualization, then it must show up in your reality, because that's law. That's how consciousness works. And there are so many different other states of consciousness that are explored in this and how it all works. But this I just thought was the most important one, just because it's about everything that I speak about in all my videos, about how the feeling is the most important thing. So I feel like everyone already knew about this anyway, but these documents are so powerful. And if you want to find them for yourself, just type into Google CIA documents 2003 written on the 9th of June 1983, and you will literally be amazed by everything that you read on there about consciousness.
People with thin lips are not good people. This is something that my mom has been telling me for decades, that people with an upper lip that is thinner, almost disappears when they smile, are not good people. And I have always told my mom, you're just being superstitious. Because she is. She's superstitious. But the problem is, every time I see someone that has done something horrific, I always look at their lips, especially the upper lip. And time after time, she proves to me that people with thin lips are not good people. Right now, this woman is on trial because of the death of her granddaughter. She forgot her granddaughter in the back seat of the car for 4 hours, and then went inside the house and played the piano. After 4 hours, she realized that she had forgotten her granddaughter in the back seat of the car. Mind you, this is the first time she's babysitting her grandchildren after the death of her other grandson less than a year before. How did the grandson die? She was babysitting her grandson, took a nap, and her grandson walked out of the house through the back door and drowned in the near pond. There's something about people with thin lips. This is Letitia Stout. This is the stepmom that took the life of the stepchild in Colorado. Thin lips. I could go on and on. I don't know. Have you heard about the theory of thin lips?
No, I haven't. This is the first time.
Let me give you a piece of advice that will probably change your life. The more you feel resistance in your heart to doing something is not a sign that you should probably avoid that thing. The resistance is actually something called procrastination. And from a human evolutionary standpoint, your mind only wants to procrastinate things if they're probably going to change your life, because your mind is terrified of change. Your mind associates change with danger. So it would rather keep you in familiar territory, even if the familiar territory is not what's best for you. So here's a pro tip. The more you feel resistance in your heart to doing something, the more there's something kind of holding you back. That is not a signal to avoid doing that thing or avoid taking the leap. That is the exact signal from the human DNA telling you, if you do this thing, things in your life will change. And that's usually a good thing.
It actually is a very biblical idea that some people are poor and some people are rich. There's capitalism all throughout the Bible. Solomon's interesting because he actually made the right call when God asked him, what do you want? And he didn't ask for money, he didn't ask for land, but Solomon goes, yeah, just give me wisdom. Solomon knew that if he could be wise and have a sense of like, what do I do? Then he would probably inherit everything else. And God saw that too. He was like, all right, cool. I'm going to give you wisdom and I'm going to give you everything else. Solomon wasn't born dumb. He was already wise. How do we know that? Because only a wise person would ask for more wisdom. So like when you look at the majority of people who are struggling with poverty today, they're not asking for wisdom. To be at the level where you have to ask for wisdom means that you already have some wisdom.
What is going to be the sign of your second coming, and what is going to be the signs of the end of the age? So 3 questions there asked. And Jesus' first response has always intrigued me. And I heard you talk about this recently. So I'm going to let you break the ice here. What was the number one thing Jesus, first thing out of his mouth, number one thing he warned the disciples about when they asked him about the end of the age?
Well, in Matthew 24, verse 3, they were sitting on the Mount of Olives, and they said, Lord, when will these things be? What will be the sign of thy coming? And the word what in Greek is the little word t. It describes something very minute, very minuscule. It means they were saying, Lord, we don't want a fuzzy answer. We want you to tell us precisely, exactly what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age. And it's interesting that they came to Jesus privately. And you know, when you get alone with the Lord and you speak to him privately, he will say things to you. And when no one else was listening, Jesus began to give them signs. They asked for one, but Jesus actually gave them many. But when you come to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 4, he answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. And John, most people, when they read Matthew 24, they jump right down to verse 6, which says, you'll hear of wars and rumors of wars. Verse 7, nations shall rise against nation, and famines and earthquakes and pestilence. And all of those are really important signs. But the first sign Jesus gave was the most important, and that's verse 4. And in verse 4, he said, take heed that no man deceive you. The words take heed in Greek are blepete. It's the direct form of the word blepo, which means to see. But here, Jesus used the direct form. It's like he was reaching out to grab them by the shirt and shake them up. Okay, you want to know what is the sign? Hear this. Take heed. Really hear what I'm about to tell you. Take heed that no man deceive you. And that word deceive is the Greek word planeo. That word planeo, here translated deceived, became very, very popular in the intertestamental years between the Old and the New Testament, when there was a great fascination with end-time events. And the rabbis at that time, just like Jesus said here, began to prophesy in the very end of the age. You'll know when you've come to the end of the age because spirits of delusion will be released in the earth to cause a worldwide deception. And basically now Jesus says the same thing in this verse. And this word deceive, the Greek word planeo, was a word which described primarily a moral wandering. But it was a person, a people, or a nation who one time walked on a very solid, traditional, well-worn path, but now for some reason, they've elected to leave that path and to take another path that leads along a very dangerous, treacherous cliff. It is the most dangerous path they could take, but they have deliberately wandered from a moral path. And the same word deceive was used in an agricultural sense to describe an animal that got so lost it couldn't find its way back home. So when you carry all this into the verse, Jesus was saying, you'll know you've come to the end of the age when society as a whole has made a decision to veer from what it once believed, to leave a very traditional, solid moral path and begin to go a new direction. And of course, today we have progressives, and they're declaring that they're paving the way for a new world and a new kind of thinking. And they're taking this new moral path, which is absolutely treacherous. And if you look at what's taken place in society, you kind of wonder, has society lost its way so badly that it will never be able to find its way back home? And Jesus said, when you've come to the very end of the age, you will know it, because delusion will be released into the earth. And this word planeo describes delusionary spirits, which really create a mad kind of thinking. And we're really living in delusionary times.
Do not be afraid, day 10. Jeremiah 42, verse 11. Don't be afraid of the king of Babylon, whom you now fear. Don't be afraid of him. This is the Lord's declaration, because I am with you to save you and rescue you from him. So here the Lord is coming to a group of people and is saying, I know that you're scared of the king of Babylon, but don't be, because I am with you. I am here to save you and rescue you. Basically saying, like, you are not alone. And the same is true for us today. We should not be scared of anyone. We should not be scared of anything, because we know that the Lord is with us, that we have him, and that he is here to protect us and rescue us. Let this give you some encouragement today to not be afraid.
The second sign, this is I found interesting. extreme restlessness in a spiritual environment. So talk about that.
So demons, if they cannot get us to not get to Jesus, their second goal would be, and they would settle for that, is to get us not grow in Jesus. And a lot of times unclean spirits, people who have unclean spirits, they will begin to feel extreme restlessness and extreme attack trying to pursue Jesus. They almost feel like restriction. If you remember the story of Lazarus coming out of the grave, he was resurrected, but he was restricted.
He was still bound, right?
He was still bound. So imagine a bound person with grave clothes walking. That's pretty much the picture of a person who is loving Jesus, trying to pursue Jesus, but has demonic attack in their life. It's like Israel in Egypt, under torment. They're really trying to press in, but their life is very, very difficult. And that usually happens in the spiritual life.
God's favor will get you in places where hustling can't. So often we think that the more we do, the more we produce, the more we achieve, the further in life we will get. But the Bible teaches that when God's favor is on somebody, it doesn't matter what comes against them. That God is going to open doors, God is going to open opportunities, God is going to make it happen because His favor is on them. And so instead of chasing the opportunity, instead of chasing the thing and doing more, why not get alone with God? Why not ask for His hand to open up opportunities? Why not go to the source and the giver of all things versus chasing every opportunity that presents itself? God will take you further, and God can do more than you could do hustling your entire life. What could take you and I a lifetime to accomplish or achieve, God could do in the twinkling of an eye. And so be reminded today of where your strength comes from. Be reminded today of who's got your back. And if it's part of God's will for that door to open and His favor is on you, it will open. But if it's not, okay. Closed door is just redirection. Closed opportunity is just God saying, I got something else in store for you. Move on. Stop looking behind. Keep looking ahead.
Afghanistan used to be a net food exporter. And as soon as the U.S. takes over, they're producing 93% of the world's heroin.
That's right.
I'd like to know how the fuck that happened.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to tell me. So, I get to Bagram Air Base, and I said, I'm going to need a helicopter to Lashkar Gah. They were like, oh, can't do it. Too dangerous. I was like, no, we're doing it, like, in the next hour. So, we get down there. And it's a god-awful place. But man, I'm telling you, as far as your eye can see, all there is poppy. All of it is poppy. So I said, I want to talk to a poppy farmer. They were like, are you nuts? And I said, no, I'm serious. I want to talk to a poppy farmer. So we go out to the poppy fields. We see this guy cultivating his poppy. So I go up to him. And I said, I got to ask you a question, which was incredibly naive. I said, why don't you grow crops that have 2 growing seasons instead of poppy? You could grow tomatoes or onions or pomegranates. And he goes like this. He goes, the Americans told me in 2001, if I told them where the Arabs were, I could grow all the poppy I wanted. I go, what Americans told you you could grow poppy? And my military handler's like, we gotta go. Bogey's in the area. We gotta go. And he physically pulls me into the Jeep and takes me back to the helicopter. I was like, okay. So I make an appointment to go to this DEA secret site. Somebody had reached out to me and said, hey, we heard you're doing this study and you might want to come out here. We can have lunch nearby. I was like, okay. So I get in my car, I drive out to Timbuktu, outside Washington, friggin' far, and there's this secret DEA facility out there. So there are 3 of them. We go out to lunch, and they were like, you're in over your head. I said, how do you figure? They're like, there are very powerful forces that want that poppy to be cultivated. And I said, why?
Okay.
It's 93% of the world's heroin. And they said, because almost all of that heroin goes to Iran and to Russia. And we want them to be addicted to heroin. It weakens their societies.
Oh. Almost all of it goes to those two places, and it's 93% of the world's heroin?
Our heroin comes from Colombia and Mexico. Ecuador.
What about the injector, though, getting the heroin from Afghanistan?
That happens too, but it's small scale. So I'm writing all this up, and Carrie's like, nah, we're not publishing that. And I was like, they got to him too. There was a worse episode. I get a call one day from a noted human rights activist for one of the big human rights organizations. And he says, can I see you? I said, sure. He said, I can't come up to the hill. It's got to be at a private location. So
God is going to make a way out of no way for you. It doesn't matter how impossible the situation may look. God is going to make a way out of no way. It's only going to be by his hand, his might, his power. All right? Trust God. I promise you, he will show up at the perfect time. God is going to make a way for you out of no way. So I want to read some scripture out of the story of Moses in the Bible. And so let's read some scripture, y'all. Exodus 14, verse 21. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with the wall of water on their right and on their left. Moses and the Israelites, they were trying to escape Egypt, and they thought it was over with. There was no possible way out. But God made a way. He split the sea in half so they could walk through on dry ground. Come on, y'all. God will make a way out of no way, okay?
When the enemy is beating you, it's because God is planning on blessing you. And the enemy wants you to quit because of the beating before you get to the blessing. If you want to have a good marriage, you're going to take a beating. You want to raise godly kids, you're going to take a beating. You want to have an integrous company that ties to the Lord, you're going to take a beating. You want to plant a church and stay open, you're going to take a beating. And ultimately, it's to get to your blessing. I need you to know that the Christian life is going to be a bit of a beating to get to your blessing. Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me. That's your beating, and it's going to end in your blessing. And what happens is, everybody wonders, I'm taking a beating. Am I in God's will? Probably. That's why you're taking the beating. God, are you doing this? No, I don't beat my people. My enemy does, just like he beat my son. And I'm for you. I'm not against you. But I'll never leave you nor forsake you.
The things that make you not compatible with somebody are when your values or your dreams don't line up. And staying in the relationship means you either have to give up on a dream or you are going to go against your values. That is the sign that this is not compatible.
100% of mental health issues, there will be some level of circadian disruption.
What is a circadian rhythm? So here's my read on it, and correct me if I'm wrong. There's a clock in my head.
Yes, the suprachiasmatic nucleus is the master clock.
And this clock regulates every cell in my body.
Cell, tissue, organ.
And it controls the release of a chemical, which makes those cells, organs, every part of my body do stuff.
Yeah, so it is your hypothalamus, so the suprachiasmatic nucleus, it responds to light and it responds to darkness. Okay, so that's like the most pronounced entrainment cue for this master clock. And it then sends signals to every cell tissue in your body as to what it needs to be doing in the presence of light, in the presence of darkness. And when we are viewing light at a phase of the natural light-dark cycle, that is, if I am awake when I should be sleeping, or I am sleeping when I should be awake, when my body anticipates that, it causes huge amounts of stress in the system. If we do this once or twice, not a big deal. But if we're doing this chronically, okay, it has massive health consequences. And if you think about how many folks are walking around with circadian disruption, it is mind-blowing.
Let's go through the 8 stages of human maturity. Most people, many people, never make it past stage 3. Stage 1 is what we're born into, non-conceptual awareness. When we're born, we can see, taste, touch, feel, and experience, but since we haven't yet learned any words, we can't think or form concepts. We may be uncomfortable, but we don't have the thought, when is someone going to deal with this diaper? We also don't have a sense of personal self. There's seeing the teddy bear, but not the sense, I am the one seeing my teddy bear. Okay, stage 2, getting programmed. This is when our body-mind gets our unique set of conditioning. Conditioning may be useful, like learning to walk and talk, read and write, drive a car and tie our shoes, or it may be dysfunctional, like being shy, feeling anxious, fearing other people, being prideful, having a short fuse, or harboring a sense of unworthiness. We don't take on this dysfunctional conditioning intentionally. It just happens growing up in the circumstances that we did. There's no blame here. Our parents that had a major role in our conditioning were themselves thoroughly conditioned. Stage 3, normal, robotic existence. As we enter the job market, form relationships, buy household appliances, and do other adult things, we operate based on our programming. We may feel like we are making our own decisions, but those choices are heavily influenced by our childhood conditioning. Our adult life may be fulfilling or not, chaotic or orderly, but regardless, we are functioning quite unconsciously. The conditioning that has become so familiar that we've grown to believe, well, hey, it's just who I am. It's not easy to notice the robotic character of this existence because, well, nearly everybody else is sleepwalking also. This is about as far as most people get in their lifetime. Stage 4, a turning point. A shock is almost always required to break the trance. The shock may be the death of a loved one, loss of a career, a terminal diagnosis, or the loss of a lover. It may also be a midlife crisis, regardless of what age that occurs, when we rather suddenly realize that life is finite and much of it has slipped away already without yet finding true happiness. A question might arise, is that all there is? We come to a fork in the road. Either we double down on what seemed to work in the past, or we open up to the possibility of a new perspective. Stage 5, asking the big question. This is when we finally get around to addressing the elephant in the room and ask, who am I, really? If we've come this far, we can see that while our health and wealth, career, relationships, and skills are related to who we are, they don't define the entirety of what we are, nor do our opinions, goals, regrets, memories, and so on. If we ask the question with integrity, who am I? We're left with the only honest answer, I don't know. This may be shocking to acknowledge, but it is the first step homeward. Stage 6, discovering what we've always been. With some deep investigation and, yes, a little courage, we may discover that there is this innate capacity that's true for all of us to be aware of whatever may be happening. It's the same awareness that we were born with. We just lost track of it as we were getting shoehorned into our adult roles. We don't have to earn this awareness or be worthy of it. It's already and always complete, as is. This awareness is sometimes called true nature or spirit, but regardless of what it's called, it is our essential being. It's an enormous relief to discover this most essential nature that we are, that it was never born and therefore cannot die. Stage 7, stabilizing our discovery. We can recognize our true nature in an instant, but even after that momentous discovery, clarity may seem to come and go. This isn't a mistake. It's actually life teaching us how to find our way home again and again until we can function in the rough and tumble world of form without getting lost. And finally, stage 8, coming into alignment with life. The sense of a personal self, apart from the rest of life, dissolves. And there's the sense of being okay with what is and doing the next obvious thing in service to life as a whole. Not because it's the spiritual thing to do or to earn merit or heavenly brownie points, but rather because we have come into alignment with how life is unfolding, moment to moment, and there's no end to that unfolding.
I was just listening to Joe Dispenza, and he said something freaking profound. He was talking about how when people are right about to meet their manifestation, like they're right about to live the life that they want and become the person that they really want to be, that's when things are super freaking messy, like super chaotic. And he used a really good analogy, which is like when you are cleaning out your closet, before you get to the clean part, you got to take all the stuff out. And you make an even bigger mess, like in the center
That's
of
true.
You pile all
Yeah.
the stuff. And it's like, that's you bringing all of your negative stuff that you don't want anymore to the front so that you can then clean it out. Like, it made so much sense to me. But then he went on to say, when you're in that place, you have to be really, really kind to yourself and really graceful with yourself, because that's the time when most people give up and they go back to the old patterns. Like, so when you are doing your practice or whatever you're doing for yourself, like anything that you're doing spiritually right now, like when it's getting heavier and heavier, you just want to give up and just default to the stuff that you've always done. But he's like, no, that's when you double down. And if you stick to it, if you stick to that process, that's when things start to come into fruition, just like the clean closet. So yeah, I hope that helps you or resonates if you're on a journey of manifesting your dream life and you're just struggling right now.
I've paid for sex before. I've slept with, I will not say I've slept with prostitutes because I would not denigrate those women with that term. I prostituted them. I participated in sin. I objectified them. So keen to worship at false altars that I allowed myself and other people to be denigrated. I desecrated his code. The one word that hit me so hard in Corinthians when Paul says to them, did you not know that your body is a temple? It's the did you not know that gets me. Did you not know that your body is a temple? Did no one tell you that it's sacred, that you are beautiful? You can't have known, otherwise you wouldn't live like that. You can't have known that you are loved, so loved that he would do that for you. He did that for us. Let's not carry on doing the stuff that he got nailed up there for. Did you not know that your body is a temple?
India's biggest challenge in 10 years' time will be Africa. Why? Africa has 56 countries. It's not just one country. But the beauty about these 56 countries is that there is one player in the world which is trying to change Africa and make it more prosperous and economically much stronger. And this country is China. China has been pouring money after money into Africa, into almost every country. Western countries thought they should keep the money with themselves and forgot about Africa. And China came along and said, no, this is a poor area. I must invest here so that this area can become prosperous. Why is it important to invest in that area?
If you believe in God, you'll get what I'm talking about. I feel like when somebody is very heavy on your heart and like you just cannot stop thinking about them, you should pray for them. Like, especially if it's somebody you're not in contact with. Whenever this happens to me, I just take it as a sign that God wants me to send them a prayer. Pray for their well-being, pray for their health, pray for their healing, pray that God helps them get through whatever they're going through. I saw a post where somebody said, maybe God has them on your mind because there's no one else to pray for them, so they need you to pray for that person. So whenever this happens, I just shoot a quick prayer because they must need it.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. Chick-fil-A is the #1 preferred first date spot for American men according to a new survey. The top 5 spots are all actually fast food. The same survey said that 66% of women would prefer having a first date at a McDonald's. Doctors are now warning to not sit on the toilet for longer than 10 minutes. 5 of the top firms in the Plastic Pollution Alliance made 1,000 times more plastic than they cleaned up. A new AI tool was built to sound like an elderly grandmother to waste the time of phone scammers. Salesforce is hiring 1,000 salespeople to sell AI tools that replace salespeople. The first known emperor penguin to reach Australia was found on a beach. A woman married a man who had forgotten they had broken up after he had gotten a concussion. Yale is now teaching a class on Beyonce's political and cultural impact. A sick man was brought to a bank on his hospital bed to confirm his identity. 2 drug dealers are in jail for 12 years after losing their bag of drugs on a train and then reporting it missing.
So crazy, that's so dumb. Okay, so these were doses of inspiration from all over the internet, and I hope you were inspired by these videos. And we've come to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and also share with your friends, and also click on the notification bell icon so that any video that I post, you will be the first to get it. Adios amigos, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.